propane burners shattered the morning quiet, and columns of hot flames shot above our heads as the morning sun emerged over a distant horizon. Minutes later, as the skies brightened, we cast off our mooring lines and softly lifted into the morning sky. Soon, with fellow passengers gathered in a wicker basket beneath our hot air balloon, we were soaring over the legendary landscape of Luxor, Egypt. On one side of us was the famed Nile River, whose waters have played a critical role in sustaining life in the desert landscapes along its course of more than 4,000 miles to the Mediterranean Sea through Uganda, Sudan, Ethiopia, and Egypt. Luxor, outstretched below us on the east bank of the Nile, was the capital of ancient Egypt. On our other side, more than 1,000 feet below us, the morning sun illuminated Egypt's legendary Valley of the Kings and Valley of the Queens. These valleys on the west bank of the Nile, with their dramatic limestone cliffs, are the site of ancient tombs for kings and powerful nobles for an illustrious period in Egyptian history nearly 3,000 years ago. After a lifetime of learning about the extraordinary history of ancient Egypt, I had arrived for a first-hand experience. As our balloon drifted lower to a landing, we floated over residential neighborhoods with the sights and sounds of early morning life. Children waved to us, and as we descended further, some ran to meet us at our landing site. Visiting the Valley of the Kings at night is an unforgettable experience. The tomb of King Tutankhamun is perhaps the most famous sight in the valley. The fascinating story of the discovery of King Tut's tomb and the remarkable treasures it contained are out of sync with the king's relatively modest tomb. Egyptologist Howard Carter discovered the tomb in November 1922, and Egypt will celebrate the 100th anniversary of this historic event in 2022. Tut ruled Egypt briefly more than 3,000 years ago and died young. His fame is chiefly associated with the fact that his tomb was largely intact when discovered and included an enormous array of ancient treasures. Many other tombs in the Valley of the Kings have been robbed and damaged over several thousand years. The tomb of Queen Nefertari in the Valley of the Queens is a short distance from King Tut's tomb and is considered to be one of the finest in all of Egypt. Nefertari, whose name translates to beautiful companion in Egyptian, was the first wife of Ramesses the Great, one of Egypt's most illustrious kings. The tomb's 3 chambers and connecting corridors are adorned with colorful scenes, including the queen shown in the company of gods worshipped in those times. Another prominent temple in this valley, seen on our hot air balloon ride, is the imposing temple of Queen Hatshepsut, who came to the throne in 1500 BC during Egypt's famous 18th dynasty. She is widely considered to be one of ancient Egypt's most prolific builders and an accomplished ruler. Her mortuary temple, with 3 massive terraces, demonstrated her remarkable architectural and building capabilities. Queen Hatshepsut was one of 30 ancient Egyptian kings who contributed to the vast Karnak temple complex in Luxor. This UNESCO World Heritage Site includes tall granite obelisks constructed for Hatshepsut. The Karnak complex provides insight into ancient Egyptian culture, including religious beliefs, and demonstrates a wide range of building practices over many centuries.
We are in Karnak temples, and this colonnade is the largest colonnade that was built for worshiping a god by mankind on earth. A total of 66 acres, and we have 134 pillars here. The ones in the middle has a capital of a lotus flower, whereas the ones at the inside has a capital of the papyrus plant, and the difference in height forms what we would call clear story windows. 1230 BC, when this was built, part of it was built by Seti I, the father of Ramses II, and another part was built by Ramses II.
So this is really significant because around 1500 BC, the Egyptians started to use columns instead of the traditional pyramid style. And how did they make these columns?
Well, they raised the ground by sand, so they would bring piles of sand and raise the ground and build and raise the ground and build until they reach all the way up to the top. That was the technique they used because they didn't know scaffolding at all at that point. They would carve it from the top to the bottom, and all those colors and paintings are original.
Our visit to Luxor included a celebratory dinner at the Medinet Habu Temple. In Cairo, we had an opportunity to meet with Egypt's Minister of Tourism, several Egyptologists, and a number of local entrepreneurs. A highlight of any visit to Cairo is a trip to the nearby Giza Plateau, home to some of the world's most impressive ancient monuments, including the Great Sphinx and the Giza Pyramids. Our visit to the Great Sphinx included a briefing by famed Egyptologist Zahi Hawass, who has served as head of Egypt's Supreme Council on Antiquities.
We had to restore it, but this will never be like this because the sun never comes here.
Built of limestone more than 4,000 years ago, the Sphinx is one of the world's most recognizable sculptures. It depicts a mythical creature with the body of a lion and the head of a man, believed to represent the face of Pharaoh Khafre, who ruled Egypt at that time.
In the middle of these walls, there was a villa dated to the reign of Amarna in the New Kingdom. Maybe Akhenaten or Nefertiti used to come to make a picnic here.
Towering over the landscape near the Sphinx is the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Believed to be more than 4,600 years old, this massive structure consists of more than 2 million stone blocks, reaching a height of 450 feet, and reportedly constructed by a workforce that numbered more than 100,000 laborers at times. I climbed high into the king's chamber through narrow passageways and then had an opportunity to get a perspective on this wonder of the ancient world from Egyptologist John Swanson.
This is the Great Pyramid Age, and the 4th dynasty produced the biggest pyramids here at Giza. This one was produced by a king named Khufu. But the dating on this is very old in terms of recorded human history. The monument you're looking at, this goes back to, it's 4,600 years old. Pyramids have the shape they have because it's the same shape that God uses when he builds mountains. There's a natural stability. I know everybody goes into how do they build the pyramids, and we don't really know for sure because there's no text. Basically, these are a lot of very skilled guys whose skill is pushing and pulling stone. And you're moving hundreds of blocks of stone every hour up into place. That's a management problem. That's not an engineering problem. And I really do mean it that way. Thinking about how you control this whole process, keep everything going. The technology is not that difficult. It's a problem of how do you build the ramps? How do you? It's management. And in many ways, the Egyptian state is creating itself. The whole bureaucracy is oriented around helping to build the structure. You have to get food to the workers. You have to do all of this. You're building the state by building the pyramid in terms of establishing a bureaucracy and structures. The people who built this were just now experimenting with the problem of how it is you suspend a block of stone over a large open space without having it come down on it. Using columns, for example, to hold up a ceiling. And once you master that, you can build on a bigger scale of building hallways. And when you get down to Luxor and see the temples there that are 1,000 years later, they have the biggest column hallways ever built. hundreds of columns, enormously tall, opening up vast interior spaces with walls that are full of carvings and reliefs.
Far in the south of Egypt, near the Sudanese border, another ancient Egyptian monument was jeopardized decades ago by the building of the massive Aswan Dam on the Nile River. The famous Abu Simbel temples were carved out of a mountainside in the 13th century BC during the reign of Pharaoh Ramesses II. These twin temples serve as a monument to Ramesses and his wife Nefertari, depicting important themes and moments in their lives, including Ramesses' important victory in the ancient Battle of Kadesh. The threat of flooding by the creation of artificial Lake Nasser behind the Aswan High Dam caused UNESCO to lead an effort to move the Abu Simbel temples in their entirety to higher ground. We traveled on the Nile to Nubia, a home of ancient civilization in Africa and an important source of gold for ancient Egyptians. We were treated to traditional Nubian music at lunch. And we learned that Queen Nefertari was of Nubian origin. Ancient Greek historian Herodotus traveled extensively in Egypt more than 2,000 years ago and wrote that Egypt is the gift of the Nile. The importance of the Nile River to Egypt since ancient times cannot be overstated, and we appreciated this importance as we traveled with guides along a short segment of this iconic river. Our journey included visits to Nubia, Philae, Aswan, Luxor, Cairo, and to numerous museums and ancient sites. We came to more deeply appreciate the remarkable contributions of Egyptian civilization to the world in writing and papyrus writing paper, mathematics, metallurgy, irrigation and agricultural implements, large-scale engineering and construction techniques, astronomy, calendars and clocks, art, medicine including surgery, and other realms. An ancient Egyptian proverb may capture an important aspect of the mindset that helped create this remarkable civilization. Know the world in yourself. Never look for yourself in the world, for this would be to project your illusion.